SmallHD just released their brand new monitor and it is very bright and very sharp. This is the brand new Focus 7 from SmallHD. Let's check it out. So SmallHD just sent us the pre-released model of the Focus 7 and it is amazing. I will be completely honest, at first I didn't think I would want a 7-inch monitor. The reason for that is we film weddings for a living and most of our stuff needs to be run and gun and quick, non-intrusive, and so I felt like 7 inches feels really big and unnecessary. However, after shooting with this for a whole weekend at the wedding that was filmed outside with tons of sunlight and snow, this thing performed amazing. Things that I couldn't even do with the Focus 5, the 5-inch version, I could do with this one, and I absolutely loved it. So let's talk a little bit about this brand new monitor. We're going to look at some of the features and specs on this. This is a 1080p resolution monitor. It can take 4K input, but it can also take 4K 60 frames input. I know that it mentioned on the website that it is up to 30 frames per second. However, I shot with this in 4K 60, and while recording, it was displaying the signal on this monitor, which is amazing. So I can shoot 4K 60. Obviously, it only displays it in a 1080p resolution on this monitor. Also, it has 1,000 nits of brightness. Now, to give you an idea of 1,000 nits of brightness, the Focus 5 actually has 800 nits. Now this actually seems much brighter than the Focus 5 because once you calibrate the Focus 5 monitor, it actually kind of dials down a little bit of the brightness levels. On here, when I received this monitor, it was very close to already calibrated, which is awesome to say the least. I don't have to do too much to it. I did also calibrate it with the X-Rite color probe, and it was very close. So that is great news that once I got this monitor, didn't really need to do too much calibration on that. Because it's 1,000 nits, I could actually see more detail in the highlights. To give you an idea, I was actually shooting a scene outside with a couple, and there was snowy, so I couldn't really tell where the detail lied and what was overexposed. So I turned on my zebras on this, and I would try to get as close as I could without clipping. Now, whenever I did that on my actual GH5 monitor right here, I couldn't see detail in the highlights. Also, my wife was shooting with the Focus 5-inch, the original one, not the OLED, and that one also kind of looked milky, like I couldn't really see too much of the detail in the highlights. But on this monitor, I could see details in highlights that I've never seen before. And when I say that, I actually brought the footage into Final Cut Pro X and I viewed it on a 2018 MacBook Pro, and I couldn't even see the subtle details in the highlights, but I could on this monitor because of the brightness levels. That was really amazing, is that this brightness levels is HDR capable, and what that means is HDR, to get into the specifics, it's not true HDR because you need an actual 10-bit panel that will display 10-bit color, and this is 8-bit with about 2-bit in dithering, which I also believe the Shinobi is as well. So it is not true HDR, but it is in the range to produce and showcase HDR quality. So 1,000 nits of brightness is amazing. I can also shoot 10-bit on this GH5, and it displays on this monitor. Also, this comes with 2 battery sections instead of 1. And what's great about that is also it has much better release button to take off the batteries. I just push it in and pop it out. With the Focus 5, it was much more difficult and I'd always jam my finger, but I could have 2, and I shot an entire wedding over 10 hours and I didn't even use up both batteries. Now that was great because I shot 4K and 1080p. I'd go back and forth. I would leave it on but turn the camera off. And so for an entire day, I could use this and it was awesome without having to use any extra batteries. Also, the weight difference. This is about 1.5 pounds with 1 battery, and the Focus 5 is about 1 pound with the battery. So that's the differences a little bit, just a little bit heavier, but it's very thin, and I love that because I don't feel like it's too intrusive. The way we shoot is, you can see here, if I'm going handheld or on a monopod, I have a rig here, and this is what I'm using with the GH5. I have half a rig, and I also have a handle. On that handle, I can actually place a hot shoe mount where I can put this bracket. Now, this shipped with the monitor, and I don't believe that the bracket comes with the monitor. It might be an accessory to it. I'm not sure because this is the pre-release model. But what I love about this bracket is that I can actually put it on both sides. So on this monitor, you can see that we have the HDMI, a full HDMI input, so I can have more options for cabling. So I got a very short, I would say this is about 8 inches to a foot in length HDMI, and I have it come out the side. It's mounted, hold it with this really heavy duty rubber band, and then also it goes straight into a right angle HDMI and goes straight into the GH5. So it's very minimal. I don't have a lot of cables running around, and it's really easy to shoot with. So now let's kind of go into how it compares to the Focus, the original Focus, the 5-inch model that I have right here. It's not the OLED, so with this one, I'm just gonna mount this here so you can kind of see the difference. Here we have the sizing. So this gives you an idea of what you're looking at in size. This is much smaller, obviously, once you're comparing it to this. Now, whenever I was on the 5, like I mentioned, I would have to focus right here because at 720p, I would have to be about this distance from the monitor when I'm watching it. And if I had any sun flares or reflections on it, it was very difficult to find focus, even on this outside. So whenever I want to find focus on the Focus, I actually need to turn on my focus peaking on the GH5, and then I can actually see it. So the priority for me is, whenever I'm considering a monitor, is brightness level, then resolution. Because who cares if it's 4K resolution? If it's not bright, I can't even see the screen. So brightness level first and foremost, then resolution. So some of the differences with the Focus 5 and the Focus 7, you can see here, I have 1 battery option. Here I have 2 battery options. This is a micro HDMI to HDMI, and here I get a full HDMI to HDMI. Also, this is 800 nits of brightness. This is 1000 nits of brightness. This is 720p. This is 1080p. And that is quite a difference. Whenever I've shot on it outside, whenever we shot outside in the sunlight, very bright with a lot of snow, I could not find focus looking at just this screen. I needed the help of focus peaking. On here, I did not need focus peaking. Also, what's very interesting, it was snowing whenever we were filming. So the water was, it's kind of dripping on there, and you had driplets and everything on the actual monitor, and I could still find focus through the drips, which was crazy because it was bright, because it was crystal clear. And whenever I can view my actual LUTs that I've created, I can view our LUTs on this monitor and see what it looks like, so that when I get into post, I already know that, hey, everything's white balanced properly, it looks great, the exposure levels were set because I was adjusting for the skin tone, which is awesome. Another difference between this monitor and the Focus 5 is, like I said, the bracket can be switched to the other side. This one can't because the power button is on the left side, so I can't switch the bracket. I like the setup, instead of it being so high off of my camera, I like to kind of have it set back. So whenever I'm shooting, I can have it here. I can easily just adjust it. And because it's 7 inches, I don't need to be this close like I would with the Focus 5 to make sure that I'm in focus. So here, I can probably look at it from here. Also, having it off of a handle, I can actually tilt the camera overhead and shoot like this if I want to get an overhead shot and actually see the screen. If it's on the hot shoe mount on top of the camera, I can't tilt it and actually see the smaller 5-inch model. So this actually helps a lot. It's really great. And that's another difference between the Focus 5-inch and the 7-inch monitor. What I love about the Focus more than, say, the 701 or the 501 or 702, all those other different options with the SmallHD lineup, is the Focus is touchscreen. Touchscreen is amazing for weddings, at least for us. I can easily swipe through and go to my next setting. I can look at a black and white option. I can look at my exposure levels, my exposure assist to make sure that my skin tone is in the proper range. So I love the touchscreen the most. Also, the menu system is amazing. I think that's what sets SmallHD apart from other monitor manufacturers, is their OS built into this monitor. If you talk to anybody that's used this, or say the Shinobi or other different monitors, people usually go with the OS that is inside the monitor, the SmallHD. So that is an advantage, is definitely checking out a lot of the software that's built into this and the ease with looking at all the different features. So now that we've looked at the differences between the Focus 5, the original monitor, and the brand new Focus 7, let's go ahead and see how it performs on a gimbal. So since I like to shoot on a gimbal with a Focus monitor as well, I wanted to show you how I can easily go from run and gun also to the gimbal with the Focus 7. So here, I'm just gonna take it off, unplug it, pull it off of the hot shoe mount. I come over here. on the Ronin S, and I have a hot shoe mount with this adapter that I actually got from Amazon. That's a plate, a cheese plate. It's awesome. And I just slide this on right here, tighten that up. So since I mount my monitor this way, the bracket does kind of hinder your ability to with the joystick, but I never use the joystick during weddings, so this isn't an issue for me. Now I'm ready to actually start shooting. So I have the Ronin S right here. I don't have it turned on right now, but as you can see, I just have a basic HDMI coupler right here, so I can actually plug in straight from the camera. Over here, I actually have a right-angled HDMI cable that's already connected. It's very thin. I can just plug it straight up to my camera. So it's really quick to go from handheld to a gimbal with this setup. What I love about this too is I know it might feel a little bit big. I like to have things centered, so that's why I have it this way. It's a little bit off center, but it's pretty close whenever I'm filming, and you can actually see how it works. What's great is I can go into undersling mode, and I can actually tilt up the monitor so I can see it perfectly. So whenever I'm filming and I just want to go into undersling mode, I can easily see it that way, and then I can just go back up, and then I am ready to continue shooting. So I was shooting in very bright sunlight at this last wedding. It was snowy, and I actually had the Focus 5 originally I had set on here, and I could not even see the screen. So I had to actually ditch that. If I didn't have this, I would have had to try to get some kind of sunshade on it, or I would have actually had to turn the focus peaking on and possibly miss focus a lot. So this was very important, having this monitor. If you shoot in bright environments, that might be something to consider, especially when you're on your gimbal and you're a little bit further away from the monitor. I like to go undersling a lot, so that allows me to see very clear the screen and the subject to make sure I'm in focus. So this is kind of our setup with the gimbal, how we attach it. I'll have a link in the description for all the different adapters and things and cheese plates and stuff we've used to attach the monitor to the Ronin S. If you are interested, check that out. So my final thoughts about this monitor: should you upgrade to it if you have the Focus 5? Should you get a 7-inch monitor? I think the biggest questions come down to what environments are you shooting in. If you shoot outdoors a lot and you're shooting in bright scenarios, then you definitely want to consider a 1000 nit brightness monitor like the SmallHD Focus 7. Now, if you are more inside a lot and you also want a very small setup and you can get by with just 720p, 800 nits brightness, then you can go with the Focus 5. That's still another great monitor. For us, it's great to have both. So now that we have this, I'm probably gonna use this a lot more on the gimbal because it really helped me find focus. And because I usually shoot outdoors, portrait sessions with couples in a bright environment, it's really great to have this monitor. I don't feel like it's too intrusive after I've been shooting with it for over the weekend. Also, the battery life is great. The clarity is amazing. Also, you can load our LUTs on this monitor. I don't have monitor enabled LUTs necessarily yet, so they're not adapted for a monitor. Our LUTs will still load. It just takes a little bit longer, but you can check those out if you're interested in LUTs for wedding filmmakers to kind of get a nice color palette. We have those different options and collections you can check out with the link in the description and also in this video if you want to check that out. So is it worth it? I would say I definitely loved the Focus 7. It is something to get used to though, going to a 7-inch monitor. At first it feels a little too intrusive, and then once you start shooting with it, you're like, wow, this is amazing. The clarity on this, the highlight detail, the brightness levels, the way that you can switch the different arms. I can easily adapt from the Ronin S to a run and gun situation. It's just amazing. So I love all the different advantages that we've had with the Focus 7 as compared to the Focus 5. You make your own decision, see what's best in your environment. I just wanted to showcase the differences, how we use it in our setup, how we film our weddings using this monitor, and I think it's amazing. So thanks again to SmallHD for sending us this unit. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more films from us. I will also have links to all the different gear that we have in this video in the description, and you can check that out. Also, if you're interested in our custom LUTs that we make for wedding filmmakers, that will also be in the description as well. My name is Kalen Rome from White & Reverie. Thanks for watching.